Yo, what's up, everybody? So, this is not going to be the best breakdown. Uh, I actually did everybody based on how their teams went. Um, Unfortunately, the software that I used for it is unable to upload. So, I'm going to go in and do a quick rapid fire. So, you're just going to have to listen. Hopefully, this is under the 20-minute mark. I'm just going to rapid fire through teams, what I liked, what I didn't like. Just a quick rapid fire. I know not the best breakdown per se, but I'll get into it. Bottom line, Johnny's team, I think he did a very good job in the draft. I think the receivers are set up tremendously. I think if Adam Thielen produces a floor, Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones, Will Fuller, having three deep threats with a guy with a solid floor, is really well. Aaron Rodgers, Winston will be played by matchup. And then the thing I really like a lot about this is the fact that obviously you have Christian McCaffrey. On Johnson is probably the biggest X factor for this team to succeed this season. If he can't get it done, obviously there's going to be some room in the RB2 department. But I think the way this team was constructed, I've got no beef with it. In fact, I do like the setup a lot. I think I give this draft report a B plus. I have no beef with this team at all. Okay, speaking of which, we're going to go to the next team, Lewis Todd, who picked right after. Lewis, bottom line, I think this is one of your best drafts you ever had. Now, I don't want to give you the kiss of death because every year I think you've improved in your draft based process, and I seem to like your team a little bit each and every single year. Um, without without a doubt, I think this team has one of the best upsides out of any other team in the league. Barkley and Gurley. Now, tremendous having Ty Gurley as an RB2. If this guy plays a full 16 games, everybody who passed up on him is going to look like a fool. So there's some risk involved, but you're buying it, and then you bought more risk, but the reward is great with my friend Antonio Brown. So he's dope. Jarvis Landry is an interesting pick for a wide receiver too. I think the range of outcomes for him is interesting this year on a week-to-week basis. Baker Mayfield was a very good value pick. Austin Hooper got no beef with that really. Tight ends, team tight ends don't matter. Sony Michel and Latavius Murray. Sony Michel, as long as he's healthy, he's going to get the bulk of the carries. This is a guy who might even be able to finish the year in rushing touchdowns. Latavius Murray, I'm not so huge on. I mean, he goes to the New Orleans Saints. Curtis Samuel, though, I think is eventually going to be your starter in that flex. Darwin Thompson was everybody's Christmas gift that they wanted this year for the upside stash. Bottom line, I really like what you guys did here in this draft. Lewis Todd, I got no issues with it. The bench, aside from Darwin Thompson, I think is a little bit of a coin flip. But your starting roster looks very solid. Again, because of the great upside that you have here, I'm giving you a B plus. The only reason why it is not to an A is because I don't know what that last flex is going to look like. It could be Murray. You never know. And obviously, I got to see that Antonio Brown is, like Mike Mayock says, 100% in. But I really love the upside on this team. Now, the next team I'm going to talk about really quickly. It's not going to be my own. You don't want to hear about how my team is because everybody's going to say they like what they did. So I'm just skip right through that. I'm proud of what I did. So we're gonna go into the new kid, David Cryer. Um, his first time in the league. There are some picks I did like a lot. Alvin Kamara, you went with. I like that. George Kittle, Julian Edelman back to back was a pretty dope combination. I think George Kittle can have an uptick in touchdowns. I think that Julian Edelman can continue to be Tom Brady's go-to guy. The biggest X factor right now, though, in my opinion, is Derrick Henry. If this guy, I think he was a great value at the fourth round. If he's going to get the bulk of those carries, this guy can be an RB1. Absolutely. The fact that you didn't get him in the third and you got him in the fourth is the reason why I'm not hating this pick at all. I actually do like it. Alshon Jeffrey and Allen Robinson, I think you're going to play a carousel with that one. Kenyon Drake, not big on the Dolphins offense, but you never know what could happen there. Overall, I think this team is produced or constructed very well. The only interesting thing I'll say is that you went not only with Derrick Henry, but you also have Corey Davis. So I don't know if maybe Corey Davis was the best receiver you liked at that pick, or you're all in on the Titans offense. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe there's something that you know that I don't. But the bottom line is, Allen Robinson was probably my favorite pick by you. This was a guy that went in the fourth round last year. He has a second year under with Mitch Trubisky. I think that's my favorite pick that you went. I apologize for all the lawnmower bullshit that you guys are hearing right now. Hold on 1 second. As I close the window, I'll keep recording. So overall, I think this team, back to David Cryer's team, I think this team comes down to the emergence. If Derrick Henry can carry the load, and Alshon Jeffrey and Allen Robinson producing at a wide receiver 2 status, I think this can become a playoff team. But it relies on those X factors. Next team that draft, um, Paul. Yeah, Big Paul. Big Paul, we're gonna get into it. I know, Paul, you were not very happy with the way your team turned out, according to Johnny, unless Johnny is telling me a whole bunch of stuff that does not make sense. But look, I'm gonna get you, lift your spirits up. You went with Pat Mahomes. I think it's the safest pick in the draft. Yes, I understand that Watson was the next quarterback, and you missed out on some value at the round 9. But I like Adams. I like Ridley. I like Robbie Anderson. I think Ridley is going to be frustrating to own because he's going to win you weeks. I don't think that he's going to be consistent throughout the whole season though, but there are going to be games where your team becomes a boomer bust and you have Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz like you did last season. This is an exact replica of what you had last season. I know you had those two, but the way your roster is set up, um, it's wide receiver based with low end running backs. Now, the weeks you're going to have a boom week are going to be spectacular. But when these guys bust for you, your range of outcomes, I think, the reason why you're not liking it because your running backs don't have a good floor at all. I'll tell you that right now. The thing that gets me nervous with this is when they bust, you might just hit 100, maybe even lower than 100 points because Mahomes has a great floor, Adams has a great floor, and I think that Kelsey and Ertz have a sustainable floor without touchdowns. But then you have to rely on Ridley and Anderson to go off week in and week out, and that's kind of hard to trust. Um, so I think this is definitely not going to be the Paul team we see throughout the season. I think there are going to be some moves that are going to be made throughout the year. So there lies my projection for you. The next kid who picked was Max Mandel. Now, Max, I know you've been waiting, and I know that you are excited to hear what I have to say. I jumped the gun a little bit. Sorry to do this disclaimer. I said I loved your team. I actually like it. I don't love it, but it doesn't mean that I hate it. Keenan Allen will ball out without Melvin Gordon. Tyler Boyd, my stance really quickly. Good receiver. Loved him. But I think he needs AJ Green to be successful for fantasy on the outside. Jared Cook was probably one of the great tight end values that you found late in the draft, so I do appreciate that pick. Leonard Fournette is your X factor. Well, obviously Zeke Elliott needs to play too, but if Fournette can stay healthy, you might have two RB1s. I don't like T.Y. Hilton without Andrew Luck, and Sterling Shepard I thought was a bit of a reach. But I do like your potential wide receiver replacements for both Hilton and Shepard if they don't step up. Emmanuel Sanders is going to finish as a wide receiver too as long as he's healthy. Book it. Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Dante Moncrief. Now, this is interesting because I think they might just be bye week fill-ins. I think MVS is going to be impossible to figure out week in and week out. You're going to be burned by the game where you bench him and he scores 14 points and then you put him in and he gets like 3. Um, because of Devontae Adams, the other guy on the outside who's going to be MVS needs to run maybe 3 routes, but he has to earn that trust with Aaron Rodgers. Dante Moncrief, as long as he can hold off Washington in a pass-first Pittsburgh Steelers offense, why not? By the way, my one favorite pick that you did make in case Todd Gurley's knees get out is Malcolm Brown. A lot of people have a misconception about Darrell Henderson being the handcuff. Nope. It is Malcolm Brown. I will put money on it that Malcolm Brown would be the guy to take over, not Darrell Henderson. So, Max, overall, I give you a solid B just because of the uncertainty with Ezekiel Elliott and not so thrilled about T.Y. Hilton. Those are the reasons why it's not an A and it's at a B. Like I said, I like it, but I don't love it. Next. We'll break down the next team. I believe it was Andre who picked up after Max. Now, Andre, I know you were a little bit disappointed that you didn't get your man crush in Ezekiel Elliott, but I got to be honest with you. I love what you did here. It's the exact opposite of what you did last year. Last year, your team was set up in the championship. It was running back heavy, and you had 2 wide receiver 2s that you would rotate. This year, you've got a stacked lineup. The Hopkins Smith Schuster combo, I think, has the best floor out of all the wide receivers. And then you pounded more wide receivers, Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods. Uh, Basically, if you were at the back end of the draft, you wanted to go receiver first, running back later, and I think a lot of teams did the same thing. Mark Ingram, the fact that you got him in the fifth is tremendous value, and it makes this team look very, very potent. Be honest with you. James White is the one pick I am not thrilled on. Unless Sony Michel breaks his knee and Rex Burkhead isn't on the field. Look, I had James White last year. My belief is he was a beast last year because all other running backs were hurt. Therefore, they had to throw him in there. They were so desperate they made Cordell Patterson a running back behind him because they needed somebody to fit on the roster. Even if he does not, pan out, I think you'll plug and play Tariq Cohen and Dion Lewis, but I don't know if you're buying the Bears scaling back Tariq Cohen. Um, so yeah, I like what you did. I like the setup, especially because you do have a. I don't want to use the term dominant for Matt Ryan, but at home he's dominant, and then he's kind of like the new Drew Brees in a way. Because on the road he'll put up decent numbers, but not amazing numbers. But I love the way this team is set up. In fact, I would give this team a B plus. This is the highest score that I'm giving out so far, just because I think that your receivers all together have such a nice floor that on a great week, I don't even want to use that term. On a good week, I think you can produce 70 points throughout those four guys. And if one of Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods has a 2 touchdown game, uh, this is going to be a tough team to beat. So watch out for this team. I do like this team a lot. After Andre, I believe David Sutton picked. Now, David Sutton, your team is constructed pretty much how my team is constructed, and this is a classic David strategy. You're going with a massive floor at the running back position and then playing wide receivers by matchup. The one thing that I think you're going to only make changes in season in is going to be the wide receiver 2 spot because you have David Johnson, you have James Conner, you have Devonta Freeman, you have Josh Jacobs. These are all guys that are not in. They're all not workhorse backs. Josh Jacobs is supposed to be the workhorse because we like this guy, man. Devonta Freeman, I think the talent behind him sucks. The only reason why I don't like Devonta Freeman is because of his health history. But hey, having him as your first flex, go for it. Connor and Johnson together, I think on an average week will produce RB2 numbers. I know David Johnson is supposed to get all this volume. If you're buying it, you're buying it. If not, you're not. Cooper Kupp is going to be the one wide receiver that is never, unless he's hurt, to get switched out of your lineup, and then you play the guessing game between Deshaun Jackson and Josh Gordon. And the thing I even love more about this, let's say Devonta Freeman goes down, I love the receivers you can have to replace him with. Sammy Watkins, Larry Fitzgerald, Kiki Kute. I think this team has a tremendous amount of depth to it. And I love the fact that even you got Carson Wentz and you got an elite defense. Dude, I'm loving this team. And your tight end, David, I got to tell you, I'm in love with this team. I'm giving this team an A. I think you constructed this team very well. Deshaun Jackson, I think knowing who he is now, you know when he's going to take off. In a matchup against Washington, that's why he's in it. If Josh Gordon can become what he was last year, I think this team has the best floor out of all the teams so far, um, with a lot of upside as well. I'm very thrilled with this team, and I even asked you after last year, you didn't even want to trade. You said I'm perfectly fine with it. So congratulations on not taking too many run buckets like myself. Very good. The next guy we're gonna go to, the man himself, Coffeeville. Tell Mike DeFranco to get off the phone. You need to listen to this. Wait, what? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I clicked on Paul's team. Don't worry. Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, best upside out of a wide receiver, a double wide receiver combo. You were thrilled to get Duke Johnson. You're expecting big things out of him. Tevin Coleman, you handcuff with Matt Breida. Amari Cooper, a boomer bust guy, but you know what? If he's healthy, you're starting him every week. Lamar Jackson. I was smoke screening. I like Lamar Jackson for fantasy. I don't like him in real life because of his legs. Vance McDonald is a good upside guy as well. And I think you have an interesting bench constructed. I think you got a lot of guys that can potentially be third down running backs, such as Tony Pollard and Dontrell Hilliard. Jaron Brown and Rashard Higgins are guys I want to fall in love with, but I don't think they'll be that great. Crowder, I absolutely do adore. And Miles Sanders is going to take some time to get eased into the offense, but you told me RB1. I think he's more of an RB2. I know that's the conservative cop out answer, but I will say that knowing your management, this is not going to be your roster by season's end. I think some moves are going to be made. I'm going to give this a solid B. I think Julio Jones and Odell Beckham, if both of them hit touchdowns and Lamar Jackson has his established floor, I think you just need your running backs to hit their floors. Um, Me personally, unless the 49ers become this beast of a lineup, I don't think Coleman and Breida on your roster are going to be relatively starting together. But I do think once we figure out who the de facto lead back is, that's going to be the guy who's going to start, and then Miles Sanders will get eased into. I'm going to give this a solid B as my report card for that. After Robert Coffee, we have the vintage one. Now, there's a lot of things I like about this team, so I'm going to talk about it. Chris Godwin, love. Christian Kirk, I'm not so big on, but I love Dante Pettis. And if you're not big on Pettis, come hit me up. Le'Veon Bell and Chris Carson. If Bell's going to be Bell of old, this is a great pick. Chris Carson, the fantasy community is officially on board with this. I love your running back depth. I think the running back depth is really, really, really good. Especially if Gordon. I think the best case scenario for your team is if Gordon gets dealt because then you can use Eckler and Gordon. Montgomery, talented running back, might get eased into the offense a little bit. The X factor for this is Chris Godwin. If Chris Godwin can get wide receiver one target numbers and an established floor with the running backs, I think this is a team that people are sleeping on. And rightfully so, the projections are sleeping on. I don't understand why this team is projected for only 110 points for the week. I'm more bullish on this team a lot. I'm actually going to give this a B plus just because I think that Melvin Gordon pick and handcuffing him with Eckler gives him a great floor throughout the season and a lot of upside. I think the only moves that I can see this kid changing or messing around with is that wide receiver two spot. And when you have four running backs that you think are going to get an established floor, and especially Eckler, like if Eckler goes against a good run defense, he can still do work in the passing game to give him a substantial floor. I love the way this was constructed. The only pick that was a little bit of a reach or had head spinning around was the Kareem Hunt. But I mean, that is a handpicked guy, so maybe you see something that a lot of people don't. Really, really proud with the way you drafted here. Okay, last two teams we're going to talk about really quickly. For those of you that are still with me, thank you. Um, Alan Williams with Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, Mike Williams, and Tyreek Hill. This is a great, great wide receiver combo. But then you sacrifice running back. I think your cousin and yourself have the best four wide receiver duos. But the problem is, if I gave Andre a B plus on his draft report card, I have to bump you down into that C plus B minus range. I'm going to go with B minus because you do have OJ Howard. Your tight end is going to be a boss. You actually have the tight end combo that I had last year. Really, really quickly, Jalen Samuels, Gus Edwards are not going to see playing time that are going to be substantial for fantasy unless somebody goes down. I think you're going to be in the search for a running back sometime soon within the season. And knowing how you are dedicated to the guys that you drafted and you have Cam, I think this is a really, really deadly lineup if the receivers can hit. I'm a big fan of all your wide receiver picks. The only thing I would have done was instead of Mike Evans gone Juju. I think Juju and Odell, I think you passed up on too. But hey, to each his own, kid. I'm gonna give you a B minus just because the running backs are a little bit suspect right now. And last but not least, my man, the boy himself. Where is he? Gotta find your team. Matthew Morris. Okay, you went running back heavy. Um, Out of the running back heavy teams, I like what you started with the first two combos in Joe Mix and Dalvin Cook. I would have passed up on Marlon Mack at that point. I probably would have went if you had the no Carson was picked. Probably would have gone David Montgomery if he was available. Maybe he got sniped right before you, but if that was the case, I probably would have even picked Austin Eckler. I am not big on Marlon Mack. By the way, if you're listening to me right now, I like your Justin Jackson pick a lot. He's going to be better than Marlon Mack. If you don't believe me, send me Justin Jackson. We can work something out. Darius Geis, I want to be a believer in Darius Geis, but his health has me a little bit concerned. Love your Kenny G pick, but your wide receivers and your bench, man, I don't know what's going on here, man. Look, you pick your own guys, and before you start freaking out after that statement, I wouldn't invest in the Tampa Bay running backs. I picked up the random guy who's going to be on third downs. Ronald Jones is a bust. He's going to get cut from this team, not this year, but next training camp because they want to find an excuse to get rid of him after year two. Mike Davis is good if only David Montgomery goes down. Darrell Henderson, same thing. I think he only be used if Gurley's workload gets pushed back. Traquan Smith is your only other option in N'Keal Harry on the bench. Traquan Smith is not a guy who I think it could be very relevant for fantasy. I think he might have 3 good games all year. I don't see him taking that next leap forward. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed it to the best. Sorry I had to do a rapid fire thing, but thank you guys so much.